You're listening to Up to the Mic. If you want to learn about the struggles and triumphs of starting a business, performing for sold-out arenas, or inspiring those you lead, Up to the Mic is the show for you. Throw on some headphones and get ready to listen as our host, Vinny Hale, sits down to showcase the stories of those who deserve their stories be told. From young entrepreneurs to critically acclaimed musicians and so much more, Vinny helps compile a season of interviews that inspire listeners to follow in the footsteps of his guest. Hey everybody, this is Vinny Hale, and you're listening to Up to the Mic, where we sit down to dive deeper into topics that matter to you. My next guest utilizes his experience and education in the field of engineering to ensure operational excellence in all facets of the construction and engineering project lifecycle. Not only that, he's a strong advocate for prioritizing his faith above all else, and he's developed a community of over 20,000 faithful followers on his TikTok channel, where he loves to share insights on Christian values and Bible verses. So please welcome my next guest and very good friend, Blake Fuller.
What's up, Vinny? I appreciate you letting me on here.
Yeah, happy to have you, Doug. I say that kind of candidly as a joke, but I always remember having the conversation with you in college as to whether or not you appreciated the term Blake or the name Blake or Doug more so.
No, Doug's an alter ego. We don't want that name. That's a bad name.
Well, then we'll stick with Blake. Blake Fuller, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, man. I know it kind of happened quickly with us getting it scheduled and hopping on the call together, but I'm really glad to talk to you again. For those of you that don't know, Blake and I knew each other. Honestly, it's probably been 5 or 6 years now since we originally met in college, and have been friends for a long time. We haven't really caught up in a while. And so prior to pressing record here, we had a few minutes just to chat briefly, but hoping to chat on the call and catch up some more here live for all the listeners, or recorded here for all the listeners, just to hear about his story, share what he's up to these days, and hopefully inspire some of you listeners to do something similar and pursue passions in your own life.
Let's go.
Well, then, hey, Blake, how about, you give everybody a little bit of a taste of your background. Tell us about where you're from, what you did growing up, family dynamics, what do you like to do for fun, the whole nine.
Yeah. All right. Well, I grew up in Highland Village. It's a town north of Dallas, probably like 30 minutes out. Grew up there my whole life with my family, my mom and my dad and my sister. Growing up, man, we lived like by Lake Louisville, which is, it's a disgusting lake. It's a disgusting lake, but it's a good lake. And we grew up there and we'd play around there in the creeks around there, do that, and love playing sports, love football. But yeah, dude, just doing that, grew up, went on to go to A&M and yeah, now we're here.
During your time, growing up, what were some of your favorite activities? I know you said you played around Lake Louisville. You were an athlete back in the day, right? Or I guess probably still are. I know you've always prioritized fitness. You were always a big workout guy, but you played some sports growing up, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I played football. Basically all my life, and love that sport, man. I wish I could still play it. Played that, and also just, I don't know, I feel like I just hang out with my friends and goof around and around the town I grew up in, man.
So I see hanging in the background a few guitars back there. Are those yours? And if so, have you picked up the hobby, or?
I've been trying to learn. I'm living with Colby, who we know is just an incredible guitarist. So we're getting lessons from time to time, but I've been trying to pick it up. I'm too stubborn to get lessons. So I've been going off YouTube. And it's been a lot slower process, but I'm trying. That's one of the things I picked up. I'm trying to do that and video editing. That's another thing that I'm trying to grow in.
See, I feel like those are two things that Colby is a good person to live with because he's great at both of those things.
Absolutely.
That's why I originally asked, because I remember right before we hopped on the call, you were mentioning how you were living with Colby, and then I saw the guitars hanging in the background. I didn't know if you had just popped into his room for a second to do the podcast interview, or if they were yours.
Yeah. So no, this is our little study room. We got an interesting setup. So I moved in with Colby into Las Colinas, and I'm actually living with another guy, Eric Lee. He was another guy that went to A&M.
Yeah. And
it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and we have one room that's a study room. So that means there's another room that holds all three of us. And We have 3 twin beds in one room. So living the camp life, man.
Oh, that's funny. How long has that like been in action? Have y'all been enjoying it so far, or is there a little bit?
Dude, it's had its pros and cons. Let's say that. It's awesome. It's like a sleepover every night, but Eric's a snorer, man. And you know what? Hey, I love it. And sometimes I hate it, but it's fun, man. It's good time. There's pros and cons.
I've recently learned, I guess let me backtrack a little bit. Growing up, I was always like, as a little kid, my dad would snore. And so I always like hated it. And then here recently, apparently I have developed the habit of snoring and I was not aware of it. But good news is, guys, you can make some changes. I lost like 5 pounds and the snoring went away. So
really,
that's kicking there.
Okay, there we go.
It worked. I think the holiday weight put a little extra pressure on me and I started snoring during my sleep, but we're out of the habit now. We've kicked it.
Hey, let's go.
Well, hey, so Blake, you were telling everybody about how you eventually went to A&M. Tell us a little bit about your time there. What did you enjoy doing? Tell us about maybe some of the friends you met or types of activities you were involved in. Any cool memories you have of being an Aggie?
Dude, A&M's awesome. First of all, I'd like to say it's a blessing that I went there, a blessing in disguise, because when I first like decided to go to A&M, I had never been. Like I just decided to go. Like my sister goes there, let's just do it. So I ended up going there, never seen the campus. When I got there, I was like, this campus, they could have a little bit more trees or something, a little less concrete, but got there and dude, there's just been so many things I look back on and I'm just so blessed for. Like, I mean, like you said, we met in fish camp, which is something that we did. Did that 2 years. That was awesome. And really you like learn the traditions of being an Aggie. Got into a freshman organization that also brought a lot of good friends and got into One Army, which was a men's organization. I feel like you helped me get in. And that was something that I met a lot of good guys. I mean, a lot of guys that you've probably done a podcast with already, but guys that are driven to become better men. And dude, without One Army, I really don't think I'd be like anywhere near the man I am today. And so it's been a blessing, like definitely there.
Yeah, that's honestly great to hear. You got in all on your own merit, but I will say this, as you mentioned how I've gotten to do a few podcasts with other guys that we were in the organization with, I've realized that as I kind of start looking for new guests, as I go down the list of people that I know and friends I have, it's really easy to reach out to people like yourself who have some story that they're living and some passion that they're striving to achieve or work towards. And every one of the guys kind of down that list is like, oh yeah, I could definitely do it with him. And then, oh, I could do it with him too. And I just literally, it's been the easiest segue for me into having people to interview. And because I really get guests on the podcast in a couple different ways. I get through my own connections.
Yeah.
I get it through Instagram direct messages, which is usually pretty cool because I have people reach out to me about wanting to be on the podcast, and or I'll have someone reach out about something they're interested in. And this was cool. I had someone reach out last year and say like, hey, you should interview a poker player. Like that's something like that would be really awesome to see or listen to. Yeah. So I like asked them, hey, do you have any recommendations on who to interview? Like, who would you want to listen to? They gave me a name. I Instagram DM'd the guy. We had it scheduled for the next day. I mean, it was just like bang, bang. So
that's crazy. That is super cool. And man, I have those words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But so you were in a couple different organizations. I guess thinking back to your time there, I know for me, I picture like there's certain games where I remember being at Kyle Field or at the tailgate watching the game or wherever it was, and like having that like drilled into my brain of like, man, I'll never forget that day or that game.
Yeah.
It might not have to be football, but is there any just like standout memory that like when you think back on college, you're like, I remember eating at Cane's or going to the chicken or whatever it was that you just like,
dude,
always remember?
It's hard to like pinpoint like one or two, but there's so many. I'd say one of the days was getting into One Army because it was like that day I was like, bro, I don't think I should be in this organization. I was like edging about it, but like we talked about, it's been a blessing. I'd say another day. This is like a weird one, but like I was in a class of engineering and we were getting teams for like a project and I knew no one. But like there's two people that I saw, like, man, it'd be cool if I got paired up with them. And I got paired up with them and me and them two like became best friends for the rest of college. And like, man, I can't tell you how much they pushed me in my faith. And that was one of the biggest blessings ever. And that like was one of those moments where I was like, man, I'll never forget like being paired up with them and being like, there's something good here. But
That's awesome.
yeah.
It's crazy how the smallest kind of connections can turn into, a lifelong friendship, for instance.
Yeah, dude.
So I guess speaking of engineering, do you have, I guess, tell us about what you're up to these days.
Yeah.
What your job is, and then maybe some advice for Texas A&M engineering students who I know it's no small feat to one, get into and to survive the engineering school.
I would say this. So you said it best, honestly, in the intro. I've been trying to word it in a way that like makes sense, but you hit it nail on the head with what I'm doing. Basically, it's called commissioning. It's in construction, and we like do secondary engineering. So like an engineer comes with a design for a building or like a school or a hospital, and we come in and basically review that design, making sure it's good. And then once they actually get construction going, we make sure that what's being installed is how they designed it. It's operating how it can go. And so it's like, honestly, like it's like what we claim as a glorified inspector, but we do like reviewing of the engineer's work. So.
Okay. Dumb it down for your accountant friend. When you say you review the design or you review the work of the engineer, what are you looking for? Are you on a computer looking are you redoing math? Are you
So basically a design for what we're looking at it's called MEP drawings that we look at. And that's mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. And these are for construction that's going to be coming up like for buildings. And we review mainly like for mechanical, if like a certain unit can provide the amount of cooling it needs for space. And we look at the calculations behind that. And like the loads that are being put on that unit. And so there's various calculations we do just to make sure it's good. But then once it's actually installed, we basically go through like how that unit's supposed to be working. Because like there's various different things that are energy efficient. So like for example, a unit has like a thing called economizer mode. So like if it's below 60 degrees outside, it will bring in just outside air instead of using like a way of cooling the air mechanically. And it's just like using outside air just to cool the space instead of wasting energy making it cool. So there are various things that we check like that, but basically like we make sure that that's in place how the engineer wanted so that it can be operating efficiently and effectively.
All right. I like it. It sounds similar to like you said, what I Googled to describe you in the intro.
You hit it on the head. Yeah, you did good.
Oh, well, cool. So was that what you initially had your sights set on when leaving college, or how did you come into the role?
Not at all. So basically I feel like with engineering, going throughout college, you're like, okay, I got to get an internship, right? You got to get an internship because once you get that internship, then you potentially can get that job and then you're good, right? So I got an internship with the company I'm at right now in junior year. And so I did an internship with them. Really why I did engineering though was not to be in construction. It was because I wanted to build roller coasters. And like on it, dude, there's a really cool story about that actually. So, our senior year, COVID hit. And so we had to like go back. It was during spring break. Well, I was at home in spring break, just hanging out. And there was a company that I reached out to. They're a Switzerland company, like the top manufacturer of roller coasters. And they had a position open for engineering. So I'm like, hey, I would love to do this. Well, they come back and say, hey, you have to be like a resident of Europe to do it. Sorry. I'm like, dang. But they said, reach out to our USA branch. I'm like, okay. And they like send me the name of the company. Well, I go online and I go to that company's website and I'm looking for an email to email and I see a physical address. And I'm thinking like, is this just like the address my computer was last at? And it's literally 5 minutes from my house growing up. And there are no big warehouses, no big buildings. Like we're in a small town. Like I'm like, how is that possible that it's literally right next to my high school growing up? So during spring break, I go in and like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in there and talk to him and get a job. Go and knock on the door and the guy's not there. And I'm like, all right, God, I'm not doing that. So I get in my car, I'm about to leave. And I like kind of like go, God, if this is supposed to happen, like let him show up. Well, dude shows up. So I go back in there and talk to him. And like, it sounds like he's going to give me a job. Like, I'm not kidding. Like it was crazy. And then like the next day, like COVID like really hit. And obviously theme parks industries were not doing good after that. So that opportunity kind of plummeted. And then I realized I got to decide what I'm going to do this summer. Then I got into coaching, like a strength and conditioning coaching for my high school back at home. And then I realized coaching's not necessarily what I want to do right now. So I took back the offer of where I'm at now. And I've been there 2.5 years, man.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah. Okay. So I wasn't originally planning on asking about it, but I'm sure you've got some pretty good advice. I asked Jacob Mathismeyer on the podcast on the last episode about kind of his journey with fitness and how he's got a whole channel and a whole like program based around, his getting shredded kind of mantra.
Yeah.
But for someone like yourself that, doesn't necessarily use it as a job when you were a strength and conditioning coach, it's a little ironic, but for someone that's just always had kind of that drive to be fit, what's maybe some advice you'd give for people, and what kind of strategies do you use to stay healthy and stay fit?
This is the hottest take ever. Obviously you hear like, abs are formed in the kitchen, right? The hottest take and people, I mean, it's basically the same argument, but like, I'm not a guy that's about calories in, calories out. I think if you just eat healthy, and when I say healthy, I'm like talking like stuff that's boring. I think you'll be good. Like I'm not saying that I do the right thing, but from what I have learned, I think it's somewhat okay to do. It's like I just eat raw broccoli, chicken, maybe eggs and spinach. And like, dude, I'm telling you, you've never seen someone get obese by eating raw broccoli. Like so you can do the calories in, calorie out. I personally think you just gotta, honestly see eating food as you're receiving nutrition, not as like comfort. And I think you change some fitness styles.
It's a good quote there. It's a good way to think about it. I do have a follow-up to that though, because I'm someone that I love broccoli, but I've started to either bake it, or what I've recently started doing is air fry it. So I'll like take the little broccolinis and I probably, it's not just raw. I put a little olive oil and some salt and pepper, throw it in the air fryer. Is it that much unhealthier as opposed to doing it raw? Or
no, dude, honestly, I just eat raw broccoli because I don't know why. I really don't know why. But I think at the end of the day, it's just broccoli. But I'm really nitty gritty about that stuff. And so I read one time that like if you cook it too long, you lose some of the nutrients. And that made me think like, oh, well, I'm not going to cook it then. I'm just going to get all the nutrients it can, which it's a little overboard, but it is what it is.
That's fair. Well, okay. Before we get too far away from the engineering conversation, I did want to ask you about one thing.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. That way I should have had this prepped beforehand, but give me like 2 seconds to pull this up on LinkedIn. But for those of you listening, while I'm pulling this up, I'll go ahead and give a brief explanation of what I'm about to ask. Blake's LinkedIn profile has about 5 different acronyms out beside his name, none of which I know the meaning behind. And so we're going to ask him live here on the call to kind of give us a breakdown of all of these different acronyms that he's got behind his name. Let's see. So we've got Douglas Fuller, comma, EIT, comma, CXT, comma, LEED, space AP, none of which I understand. So break it down for us. What is how certified are you, man?
These are certifications for like the job I do. One, EIT is actually just for engineers. It's basically like for you when you're getting a CPA. It's like a test before you become a professional engineer. I'd say like the equivalent of a CPA is a PE. I'm an EIT, which is I had to take a test to get an EIT, which is I'm an engineer in training. And then once you work for 4 years in like an engineering firm, you can then go and you can take the test, but then you can become a professional engineer after 4 years. And so right now I'm like in the middle stage of being a professional engineer. I guess the next one was CXT. That's just like what I do. It's like commissioning. And so it's just basically like learning the standards of commissioning. That's all it is. And there's like 2 different steps of it. there's a commissioning authority. And then like before that, it's CXT, which is commissioning technician. And so right now I have that certification just because people that want to hire us think that's a good thing to have. And then lead's actually honestly something really interesting. I think I should know this. It stands for Leaders in Energy and Environmental Design. And AP is accredited professional. So it's basically like what it is it strives on green energy. So as you know, I feel like we're pushing more towards like cleaner energy. And this is more so being more efficient with how we can use renewable energy to fuel our buildings, fuel construction. So,
all right. Yeah. You worded that very exquisitely, and I think it makes a lot more sense now. So I appreciate that. I didn't mean to put you on the spot or,
no, you're good, man.
Make you feel bad about it. It's a compliment that you have so many acronyms behind your name. That means you're extremely well-versed in what you do, well-educated in what you do.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Well, all right, let's pivot now. That's one of my favorite words in the podcast. Let's pivot. We're going to talk less about your day job, less about your engineering 9 to 5. Let's talk about what drives you. You've built a online community of people on your TikTok channel talking about faith and Christianity. And I want to hear from you, just kind of how that passion developed, how you live out your faith and why you're so motivated to share.
Well, you asked like what drives me in the morning and stuff. And I think, so my routine right now is I get up at 4:45 and try to just read for like 2 to 3 hours before I go into work, reading the Bible and then maybe like a book that's based on theology or whatnot to learn. But in that, I feel like there's times where I like get inspired to like, I learned something. I'm like, man, people need to hear this because this is something that's like helped me. So that's what kind of encourages me to just go in and make a video and put it on there. But how it started, so in College Station, I guess this is something I could have talked about that I really cherished was I served at a church and I was in the youth ministry and I got paired with like teenage guys who were going through high school. And dude, that right there was like a blessing in itself. Like those guys did not have their fathers around. So I kind of got to be like, hopefully a male father figure to them or like a role model in a sense, maybe. And it was cool because I kind of have a similar background in a sense. So we got to share that and I got to grow with them. But in that youth ministry, COVID hit that when I was still doing it. And so to still pour into those kids, we would make little like devotional videos of like a passage that we were going over that week that the church was going over. And so I just made a video for that and we sent it to those kids and I got some feedback from like people I served with like, hey dude, that was like really good. And so then it made me think like, dude, what would being a pastor be like? Like, what would that be like? And I am no way saying I am a pastor now, but like I got interested in it and I'm like, man, it'd be cool to try to like, make videos like this. And so like I was just driving one day and I think I watched the show Dark. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a German show on Netflix. I highly recommend it. It's amazing. But I was like telling everyone about this Dark show. I'm like, dude, this is such a good show. And then I was like kind of convicted because man, I'm so easily to share this, but like, why am I not so easily to share my like religion, something that is supposed to be my identity? And so that kind of made me think, oh, let's make a video about that. And I made the video and slowly I just started making more and more videos. And I don't know, I guess some got some traction and slowly people started following me, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, and now we're here where I just keep making videos where I feel like I learned something that I want to share. So
that's awesome. Well, I think the origin story of that comes from a great place. And what I mean by that is it wasn't necessarily I'm going to go out and create this online group of, people, this community based around faith. I'm going to start within myself. It came from a good place is what I mean by this, that you were just doing it on your own and you felt so inspired and so called to then go out and share it with others. And now, like I mentioned in the intro, you've grown that into a little over 20,000 not Instagram, but TikTok followers. So I guess aside from the actual being driven to share the faith portion of it, how has having that channel and that community of people affected you or impacted you in any way? Have you connected with any of the followers personally on there? Have you just gotten, feedback that you've appreciated and or had to learn from? Or
Well, I'll be honest, like, so it's probably bad, but I try to stay away from TikTok as much as possible, just like because I know that I get so distracted and start watching a ton of videos. So I'll post a video and then I'll delete the app. Like I don't have the app on my phone right now, but then I'll like obviously be like, all right, I wonder if the video did good. So I'll go on and check it out, and then I'll like respond to people. But at the beginning, I didn't delete the app, and so I just keep it. But at that time, yeah, dude, I was it was crazy. I was going to a church up here called Watermark, and I guess people in Christian TikTok go there, and I'm not a fan of that term, by the way, but it's just a community, I guess, of people. And I started meeting people at that church that were also in that area. Like there's a dude that followed me and like, I think he had like 50,000 followers, and he was like, "Hey man, what's up? You're on TikTok." And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And I meet other people through that. There's actually a crazy story that like of one of the people I met on there. I guess I'll share it. So it was during the ice storm, like during I think 2020, when like we had that week of just snow that just wrecked Texas. And I just like, I don't know, I made a video during that time because it was about basically we were playing games and lights were coming on and off, and like it was just about having that peace throughout like the darkness and whatnot. I don't know, made the connection, right? And there was a person that responded on it, and I go on her like I will say that if there's someone that comments on it, they like have a little blue check mark, I'm like, yo, what is this? So I go and look at it. And this girl is like a huge influencer. And she has like millions of subscribers on YouTube. I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like, wow. And she like followed me on there. Well, anyways, back to like, I'm going to this thing called The Porch. It's a Tuesday night young adult ministry at the Watermark Church. And I went to go to the restroom, and I'm walking back in the auditorium, and that girl walks out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's her. And she goes, "Hey, you're the guy off TikTok." And I'm like, what? Like this girl has millions of subscribers. Why would she say it like that? And like, dude, just completely fumbled the bag in that conversation, I think. But it was really cool because like I connected with her. And then dude, the funniest thing is this. Like a couple days before that, I was talking with Jake Graham on the phone, and he was like, "Man, so how the ladies going?" And I was joking with him. I'm like, I think this was like around the time that Maddie Pruitt is like on The Bachelor or something. I was like, man, just wait. I want to date Maddie Pruitt because she's in Dallas now. Well, that girl that I met at Watermark is roommates of Maddie Pruitt. And so I immediately after meeting her, I'm like, dude, Jake, I actually think I got a chance. And I was kidding, but still, it was really it was crazy how that all played out. But
do you keep in touch with her, or have you seen her since?
No, we follow each other on Instagram, but I mean, no, we don't. I mean, no, not really.
All right. Well, I'm going to have you back on in 6 months, and we're going to check back in on this storyline.
Hey,
we better have had some progress with her.
We'll try my hardest, man.
Oh, that's funny. Well, that's actually a really cool story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
One thing I guess I'm also curious about is I haven't been on TikTok as much recently either, but every time I get on, it seems like I see a video of you and one of your friends. I don't even remember his name. Levi. They're hilarious though. And I'm just curious how that came to be and where y'all think of the videos that y'all make. They're just like I don't want to call them like goofy or like stupid funny. They're just like, they're funny, just flat out funny.
So I would say this, I'll be honest, like with my personal individual TikTok, like I post those videos because I'm like, you know what, this is something I feel like could impact someone. And I truly, obviously, like you do get caught up with the followers and the likes and stuff, but it really doesn't affect me as much on that. But like with that account that you just said with Levi, like we joke about like, hey, it's called Lake Mueller. We're like Lake Mueller, baby, we're gonna get there. And dude, we just sit there and try to think of funny things that we can make because we did that all growing up. Like that was something that we loved doing, is making goofy videos. And so me and Levi, who my friend's name is, and we just make videos that we thought would be funny. And dude, there are just some that we make are so dumb we don't post, but like there's others that so there's one we posted. The first one that got really good traction was when we were at Red Lobster. And we went there and we made a video But it was funny because like my friend's like, all right, I got $50 to Red Lobster on a gift card. We're going to Red Lobster and we're thinking of an idea. And we sat there the whole time at Red Lobster trying to think of a video idea. And we came up with one. We're like, all right, we'll post this. We'll see what happens. And then it got like, I think it got like 30,000 likes, but we were like, we're doing it. We're going to the moon, baby. We're doing it. So every time we're together, we just try to make videos. And we always text each other like, hey, someday we'll be there. But
That's so funny. Well, hey, if anybody listening is in the mood for a good laugh, Lake Muller, is that what it is?
yeah, Lake Muller.
Lake Muller. Yeah, that's okay. Go check them out on TikTok. They're funny. Give them a follow and a like while you're at it. I'll shout out all of Blake's other information here at the end, but yeah, go give them a listen or a watch. They're worth it.
I appreciate it, man.
Well, all right. I guess aside from what you're up to these days, tell me about, I guess, a little bit more about you. I'm going to ask you a couple questions that are more so geared towards your personal preferences or recommendations. I know one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I've started to ask a few of the people that I've had on the episodes recently, is that any good, I guess, book or podcast recommendations for you? I know you said you've been reading in the mornings.
I could do the cliche and use the cop out answer and be like the Bible, but I'm not going to do that. I would say there's a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's by John Mark Comer. And I think that might be the most impactful book I've ever read. Basically just talks about how we are in a society that is very, very in a hurried pace and we're constantly moving at a speed. I'd say like faster than the pace that God wants us to be living at. And, man, it's just one of those books you read and you just like, you get convicted and you're like, I got to slow down my life. Like there's a lot of things I'm doing that like, are they necessary? So I would definitely recommend that book. I think it's one of the best books ever written. That and Wild at Heart's another good book. I feel like that was a book that was always talked about by some guys in one army, but it's a great book. That's by John Eldridge. But podcast, man, there's one podcast I've been listening to. It's called Up to the Mic, pretty fire podcast. But there's also one by the guy that wrote Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and it's called Practicing the Way. And it's a really good podcast. It's like sermons, but I mean, it's very like relevant to society and like very, very helpful in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to, I'll try and link those in the video description whenever we post, or the episode description. But yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll have to go give those a listen. I think that that's one thing I personally struggle with quite a bit, is getting caught up in the everyday hurry of wanting to be at the next step in life. And one of my goals for this year I wrote down was slow down and try and live more frugally, because right now it's all about what's the next step in my career and my personal life and this and that and the other. And it's sometimes I literally have to tell myself every day, just, rein it in. Everything's going to be fine. Your life's not that crazy. Like things are not as crazy as you make them out to be. You're not in as big of a hurry as you need to be. And I heard a really good quote the other day, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember it exactly, but it was something along the lines of, I feel so behind in life. And then I realized that I'm comparing myself to people twice my age. Dude. And so that's something personally that I kind of took to heart, that it's like, I want this and that and the other. And it's like, well, I'm comparing myself to people that are about to retire, that have had a whole career and family and life that they've lived more than I have. And so it's hard to really put that into perspective when you're in such a hurry to go out in the world and make an impact. And
dude, there's two things from what you just said I kind of thought about. One, in regards like the slowing down, like I feel like something also that book mentions, and it's something I've been thinking about, is like, if we're going so fast, we're not able to accept some of the interruptions in life that like God might have for us. So like, that's as small as like talking to someone that like comes up to you while you're waiting in line. Like you could just be staying busy and not like accept the interruption. And who knows, like that kind of like what you're doing with golfing and you were telling me about earlier before the podcast, like maybe that was like one of those things where you're like, what, like, why did like this happen? But the guy comes and plays with you guys and you're like, holy crap, this guy's awesome. It's like stuff like that, where there's little interruptions in what you want to do and your plan and your pace. And they're there for a reason. Like there's gotta be blessings behind it. So that's one of the things. And also the second thing was, well, you know what? I forgot the second thing. My mind went blank.
Well, hey, if you think of it, stop me and we'll or
Yeah.
pop back in and we'll
Yeah. Yeah.
revisit
Yeah. I
it.
was thinking too much in that. Yeah.
No worries. These next few questions, like I mentioned, are ones that I've tried to kind of pose to a few of my guests. One of
Yeah.
them being, if you could sit down and have dinner with any three people, who would they be and why?
Yeah. That's,
If you don't
man.
have three, just
No, that's
anybody that stands out to you.
for sure. I think the first one, for me would be Jesus, and not like in a, honestly, obviously, because that's who I put my faith in. But aside from faith completely, I think like that man had an impact on the world. Like people in almost every culture talk, like say the name of Jesus, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, or if it's just like someone who you're hearing in conversation is like, Jesus, what's wrong with that person? Like they like there's like
Right.
Jesus is everywhere. And you have our time where it's like BC and after death, and it's on based on Jesus. Like there's just so many things that he did in this world. And so I was like, man, it should be, I mean, it'd be fascinating to sit down and talk to him. So yeah, Jesus is one. But also like those are all like other examples. Obviously, I would love to learn from the guide in terms of faith. Um, two, let's think, man. Two, oh, I think C.S. Lewis. If you're familiar with C.S. Lewis,
Yep.
I think,
Chronicles of Narnia, right?
yeah,
And a
Chronicles of
bunch of
Narnia.
other stuff.
Yeah, dude, he's like one of the best writers ever, I think. Like I think one of the best authors. And I honestly like that's something also I've been trying to learn about is like writing. I think it'd be fun to write a book. But he does such a good job at one having books that are about like faith, but also like Chronicles of Narnia is like a great like whole entire series of books that are just like you're entering in a new world. Like he's a great writer. And also like he was once atheist, and so he like learned all about the apologetics of like being able to prove his faith, and that's in a book that he wrote, Mere Christianity. But like anyways, he's
Wait,
amazing.
so is he not an atheist anymore? Because I remember I went to Catholic school growing up,
Yeah.
and when we were reading some of C.S. Lewis's works during school, at one point they had taken it out of the curriculum or out of the library because of the fact that he was an atheist. And I didn't never know. I haven't, kept up since then much. I didn't know what the storyline or how it goes,
Dude,
but he's not anymore.
dude, what's wild is this. Okay, so first of all, this is something I just learned. So C.S. Lewis wrote all his books back in like 1940. So like he's dead. I thought the dude was still alive personally. I was like,
I
this
didn't
guy's
know.
incredible. So he but he was atheist. And then like I think from my understanding, from attempt to like diving deeper into it to try to prove atheism, he kind of like found his religion. Now that might not be completely true, but I know that he went from atheism to being a Christian. And that's like Mere Christianity. It's a book he wrote, and it's like basically him like I guess defending the faith and giving reasons why Christianity is real and like it's legit. But yeah, dude, he's incredible. Like faith aside, very intelligent man, I feel like. And so definitely I think he would be someone I'd be interested in talking to. Third guy or woman, I need to decide on this. Dude, I think my third one might be the most controversial, but it's just the one that came to mind. I think I'd want to sit down with Kanye West. I think Kanye West would be someone that man, he is unwell right now, I think, I will say. But I just think that he's a very calculated man sometimes. I think he does things to make people stay like interested in what he's doing. Some of the stuff he says, like I don't know. I feel like he does it just for like attention. But
He's very
another sense,
tactful.
yeah. I watched the I don't know if you've seen this, but the TV show documentary they made about him on Netflix. Dude,
Mhm.
that dude, like he grinded to get to where he was. It's pretty cool. I'd definitely check it out.
I used to love watching, and this is going to expose me a little bit, but I used
Oh
to love
gosh.
watching his slam poetry on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it before, it's awesome. I mean, like if you like his music, you'll love his slam poetry. And actually, a lot of his music stems, like a lot of the verses you know of,
Yeah.
stem from his poetry that he used to write. And so it's cool. If you ever look at Kanye West, I'm going to butcher the name of it. It's like Wham Bam or Lam Bam Poetry Slam. You know what I mean?
Check it out.
Check it out. It's cool.
Dude, but yeah, he's one of those guys that like, I mean, in the documentary it shows this, but he wanted to be like a rapper, and everyone viewed him as a producer. And so like they kept on going like, man, Kanye is the best producer. And he goes, no, I'm not a producer, I'm a rapper. And like obviously he's amazing at producing, but like now he's known as one of the best rappers to ever live. So it's kind of cool. It's a cool documentary. But
those are some great people. I like it. All right, this next question is going to be the hardest one I've asked so far. I hope that you take your time in figuring out an answer.
Yeah.
And then relaying that back to us and the listeners. And the question is, given the fact that later this afternoon, the Dallas Cowboys are going to take on the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs.
Let's go.
And you being one of the largest Dallas Cowboys fans that I actually know, predictions for the game. What are we thinking? Oh, you're putting on the Cowboys gear. I like it.
I have it ready, man.
I'm about to throw on my jersey here after we hop off. But yeah.
I got Dak jersey right here. Hey, I'm telling you right now, Brock Purdy is going to crack.
Hey, I don't want to wish bad upon anyone, but I don't think he's got it like he thinks he does.
No. I'm not wishing any injury or any, anything against him. I'm just saying, you look at the teams they played, they have not played. I would say the Seahawks are the best thing they played, which they're a good team, but they're not of caliber of Dallas Cowboys. They're not of caliber of any other teams. And he's never been like pressured to like come back from something. So if the Cowboys can get ahead, if they can cause pressure on him, we haven't seen him do that yet. So we'll have to see,
I think Micah Parsons goes for like 3 sacks today.
Hey, if that happens, I think we win. I'm saying right now, it's going to be a close game. As a Cowboy fan, I'm going into this going, you know what? We're going to lose. I got to say it. We're going to lose. But if we win, I'm going to be super excited.
All right.
That's what I'm thinking on.
Fair enough. Well, Blake, it's been great, man. I guess kind of in closing, I want to ask something, is there anything that you wanted to share that maybe I didn't give you the opportunity to, or anything you would have liked me to ask that I didn't?
One thing I would say that I didn't mention when you were asking about like any advice I could give to people like in engineering at A&M, I thought about this. I would say one, take your time, not only in choosing what you want to do in engineering, but what you want to do as of a major. I think kind of how I mentioned earlier, I just chose to go to A&M, and guess what? I just chose to do engineering. And I think like one of the biggest things and advice that I give people who are about to go to college is like, take your time in deciding. Like, and also I think we all just think that we have to go to college right after we graduate high school. And I think it's good. There's a lot of benefit in that, but like, know what you want to do. Because if you just go in and spend 4 years getting a degree that you're not even sure if you want to get, like I know so many people that went through engineering or so many people that went through and got a degree and they don't even use their degree. And that's fine. Like, that's fine. Cause like at A&M, especially, we meet a ton of great people. Right. But that help us point us to like a path. Like, you look at Alex and Pablo, they studied something, but they're doing completely opposite. And it's great for them. I'm not saying they don't do that, but if you really are intending to get a career through the degree you get, make sure you know what degree, like what major you want to do. That'd be the advice I'd give. But yeah, I think other than that, let's go Cowboys.
That's great advice. Well, Blake, I appreciate you being here today, man. I know, like I said, it's Sunday afternoon. We're about to go watch our boys play and hopefully pull off an upset against the Niners.
Hey, it's not an upset, man. We're evenly matched.
You know what? I hope so. But no, thanks again for being here, man. I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a shout out. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you guys want to keep up with Blake, you can follow him on Instagram at DouglasB_Fuller. That's DouglasB_Fuller. And you can find him on TikTok at DougieFool, at DougieFull. As always, don't forget to follow the podcast on all platforms at UpToTheMic_pod.
Let's go.
We'll see you in the next one.
Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it. Fuse like a magnet, lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket.